The first bronzes in China were associated with Yu the Great. After saving China from the Great Floods of China, Yu the Great made 9 bronze cauldrons, each describing one of China's 9 provinces. These 9 bronzes became an important part of the imperial regalia for centuries and disappeared in the chaos of the warring states. For over 1,000 years, the elite aristocracy of China considered their bronze ritual vessels to be their prized possessions. They kept them in their ancestor temples on the altar, and buried them only in their richest tombs, or when they were fleeing for their lives. And yet, the history handed down to us about these bronzes is confused, and often contradictory. Today, thousands of bronze ritual vessels are in museums and private collections around the world. An important part of this research is made possible by affordable and accessible digital photography, but credit must go to those who guided the way, Dr. Dorofeeva-Lichtman and Li Feng. Every time there is a major land reform in early China, there is a major change in bronze ornamentation. The evolution of bronze ornamentations closely describes the evolution of land developments in early China. This is much more than a random relationship. The upheavals of the Warring States period allowed the hereditary codes of bronze vessel ornamentations to fade away and die out. But the bronzes and their ornamentations remained. The legends lived on. Scholars are now able to decode the legends and the bronze ornamentations as windows into China's early history. The symbols, which were originally the secret mystery of a select few, became Chinese writing. Song Dynasty scholar Lu Darling saw a bronze like this, and he thought he saw a face. Ever since that time, scholars insist that is what it is. They have created a Harry Potter world of demons, dragons, and ghosts, when it actually was a surveyor map. Many have inscriptions. These are of particular value to historians. The inscriptions were written at the time of production and are a direct, unfiltered link to the time the bronze was created. Li Feng has assembled many of the inscriptions on bronzes and combined that information with the considerable archaeological information assembled in the last 30 years. His brilliant work essentially defines early China's bureaucracy and how land was administered. Dr. Dorofeeva-Lichtman has assembled impressive arguments that China's earliest bronzes, believed to have been created perhaps 800 years or more before those examined by Li Feng, were maps. According to Dr. Veera Dorofeeva-Lichtman, those bronzes were maps documenting the Chinese classic, the Shanhai Jing. Tony Cavell guided our understanding of how early China's bronzes depicted land grants. He made surveyor documentation logical. We believe that our research bridges these 3 fields and opens up an entirely new field of research on early China's history. Around 2,500 years ago, Mr. Peng just wanted to buy some farmland. He paid the owner 4 valuable fine horses, but the owner cheated him. Mr. Peng presented his case to the local officials who ruled in his favor. They sent a surveyor into the field to place correct boundary markers. But nobody really trusted the owner, so they made a permanent record. This record can be seen to this day in the National Museum of China. It has an inscription written inside a bronze ritual vessel. It tells us what happened, where the correct boundaries belonged, and even gave the names of witnesses. They also included a map of the correct properties. It is not the kind of map that we are familiar with today, but it would be understandable to any surveyor in early China. It used standard symbols in a manner congruent with cartographic principles. We are all familiar with what agricultural farmland looks like. Row after row of straight lines tell us this field is a plowed field. The inscription tells us that the fields were bordered by streams. The round medallions with watery whorls bordering both areas are the standard symbol for stream. One stream was named the pear tree stream, and we can see the symbol for pear tree. The other stream was the mulberry tree stream, and we can see the symbol for mulberry. The inscription tells us that these properties are referenced by the East City Gate, much as we use the county courthouse cornerstone as a surveyor marker today. The handles on the bronze are the standard symbols for the city's East Gate. Any qualified surveyor who examined this bronze 20, 50, or 100 years after it was made would start at the handles and know to begin at the city's eastern gate. The ribbing would tell him that he was looking for agricultural fields. The round medallions told him he was looking for streams bordering the properties. The pear tree symbol told him the name of that stream, and the mulberry symbol told him to look for that stream. This bronze operated effectively as a document and a map. We have referred to this bronze as a Rosetta Stone. It is a biscript, that is writing in a script that is understood and directly associated with symbols from an unknown symbol system, in this case, surveyor map or cartographic symbols. This bronze was not the only biscript. The Sansherpan involves another land dispute, which documents the placement of 22 boundary markers in the inscription and with the same 22 symbols on the ornamentation. In the world of decipherment, a biscript is solid evidence. Starting with these two bronze biscripts, we cross-reference hundreds of bronzes with agricultural, surveying, cartographic, and historical records and manage to decode over 50 symbols on bronzes. These symbols allow us to examine bronze land grants and determine what kind of land was involved: forests, millet fields, marsh, rice paddy, etc. Surveyors use trees as boundary markers. Chinese etymology confirms that. With digital photography, if we closely examine the bronze boundaries, we also see them beside irrigation ditches in the insert above. The Shang and Zhou carried homeland soil and spread it in new areas, thereby making it possible for them to reside there. This tradition came from Yu the Great. The altar mound was the axis mundi, a symbolic device in domesticating newly conquered territory and making it inhabitable. For surveyors, indication of a monument is critical. What have traditionally been described as eyes were in reality symbols for locative monuments. These were large mounds created with the soil of the local leader in combination with soil imported from the corners of the empire, the altar of soil. The altar of soil was a large, impressive landmark that all local residents would know in the field. On the bronze, it was the eye. Metaphors describe the bronzes themselves. A Jew was a bird because it had 3 toes. It was the sign for an administrator. China's legends are littered with side trips into and out of the fantastic. The legends are oral literature that combine repetition, rhythm, and rhyme in colorful language as aide-memoire. Rivers become dragons. Several hundred become 10,000. Bronze ritual vessels in ancestor temples become spirits. As today's scholars decode these memorable metaphors, China's earliest days begin to come into clear focus. Over the generations, many agreements were made documenting new relations and areas. The research of Li Feng, Dr. Veera Dorofeeva-Lichtman, and Tony Cavell, in combination with widely available, high-quality digital photography, have all come together to reshape our knowledge of early China's history. We will never again be able to look at China's early bronze ritual vessels without wanting to know their original message.